My name is Alyssa Robinson, and I am here with our senior pastor, Reverend Daniel Humbert. And today we are continuing the conversation about unstoppable hope. For Christmas, our worship series, our Advent series, is called Unstoppable Christmas. And I think that that speaks to us on so many levels right now. But this week, our focus was entirely on hope. And so all of my questions today are centered around that. And so I'll go ahead and jump in to that very first question, which is probably the hardest question today. Share a time that hope was all you had to hold on to.
Yeah, it's hard, and for me personally, in terms of sort of limiting it down to a single time, because number one, hope is this precious gift, right? This concept that we believe something can be better or something can be beyond where we are. And there have been several points in my life that were pretty hard that I reflect back and think, golly, it really was hope that just kind of kept me going. And many of them are from way back. Some are a little more current, but I think I might reflect on when Kay and I were going through our infertility issues years ago, golly, almost 30 years ago now, but just trying to realize, a young couple's goal is to have kids, not the only goal, but one of our goals is to have kids. And when you sort of finally realize that you can't sort of procreate your own kids, there's both disappointment and a real sense of, man, I certainly love my wife and I certainly want to spend the rest of my life with her, but golly, what other purpose is there? And so there was a lot of doubt, a lot of concern, a lot of struggle about what does it mean for me to be a man? What does it mean for me to be a husband? What does it mean for us to be a couple? What does it look like for us to not be able to procreate our own children? So there was a lot of concern, and it took a lot on our part, both collectively together and certainly individually in our own faith components, to try to realize, and there are all kinds of possibilities. And we had often talked about adoption prior to even marriage, and certainly even prior to trying to procreate our own kids. But it was quite a gift of hope to just realize that, we can raise a family, or we can have a family, and we can have hope for the future, whether or not we can procreate. And so it was a gift to be able to lean into hope and to recognize that God was with us. And so that's kind of one of the older ones. A more recent time would be when our son went through rehab and recovery. And when we first came to that realization that he was needing that, man, it was like a big structure sort of crumbling around us, right? And to realize that he needed help and we needed help, and that we needed hope pretty desperately to keep going. And he demonstrated a great gift of faith and reliance on others who could help him. And hope is what sustained us through all of that. And so my prayer often has been that not only can I have hope, but that I can help instill hope in other people, because it's a pretty powerful gift.
Well, and it is so powerful and it carries so much meaning, but it also is an abstract thought. It's something that you can't tangibly show what hope is. And so I think adults need this as much as children, but I'm going to ask you, how would you explain hope to a child?
Yeah. Well, I likewise have a couple of ways to do this, one of which is extremely relevant right now. And it's not exactly our best faith statement, but the concept of Santa Claus is a great example of hope. It's a great way to help kids know, golly, I know Santa's coming, and I know that Santa is going to bring gifts, and I know that something good is going to come out of this. And just the waiting with anticipation that that's going to come is to me, a perfect example of how kids could relate to hope. And another is highly similar. And in fact, your nephew John lived through it. And I forget how long ago it was, but when Stephanie had him wait, had that candy sitting in front of him at the table, And she said, "Hey, John, if you'll just be patient, I'm going to go do something. And if you'll just wait, you can have the candy when it's all done." And you remember that video. It was hilarious to watch him have his own self-talk about, "I'm not going to eat this. I'm not going to," he touched all over it. He waved his hands all over it. But there was hope in all of that, right? There was hope that if I'll do the right thing here, if I'll do what I'm supposed to do, the hope is that I'll get this candy. And of course he did, because he did the right thing and he did what he was asked to do. And so that's hope, right? It's this expectation that something's going to go the way I dream or imagine or want something to go. And so hopefully that might be a good way to
Yeah,
describe.
and that came out of the social media trend called the toddler test, where you put candy in front of your kid, set up a camera, walk away, come back a few seconds later, and see if they ate the candy, giving them instructions not to. But hey, if you want to try that at home, you might be a really good way to illustrate hope to your kids.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
It really is a great example on that kind of a level. So how old is John? 5,
he's
4?
4 now, but he was 3 at the time.
Yeah. And so a great way to do a tangible example of that, I would agree, because it came to my mind almost instantly in terms of young kids, because hope is, I had a conversation just last night with a group of adults who struggled with trying to identify what is hope and what does it mean to us as people of faith. So, yeah.
Well, and my last question today, I would hope this to be true. I assume this is true, that hope existed before Jesus came, that God has always been hope. But how did the idea of hope change after Jesus is coming?
Yeah. Number one, hope is not an exclusive concept to Christianity. And so, yes, it existed, I'm sure, prior to Jesus, as it exists outside of the Christian faith. But I think that Christianity has a phenomenal take on hope, which is through the birth, the life and teaching, the death and resurrection of Jesus, we have this hope that there is life beyond this life. We have this hope that there is life after this life. And so Jesus kind of brought a tangible understanding of that by beating death, if you will, by overcoming death. And his teaching was about that as well, right? That he would say, when he talked about sin and death, he didn't necessarily mean literal death with regard to sin, though we can make that analogy. But he did mean that, golly, in our sin, that separateness from God, or that when we miss the mark, that we encounter a kind of death. But his love and his forgiveness and his mercy help us find life. And we believe that on two levels. One is sort of this spiritual gift of, man, I get a relationship with Jesus and I have hope because that relationship gives me hope. I can be forgiven. I get second chances. I get to experience God's love in a very gracious way. And then on the second level is our understanding of resurrection, which is that there is this new form of us, this new life that exists after death that we don't fully get, we don't fully understand, but we cherish and believe in. And so that's likewise our hope. And I find that Jesus offers it sort of in this twofold way. And one is about building his kingdom, building the kingdom that Jesus came to bring, which is here and now. And it's demonstrated by some of these other tangible, unstoppable gifts that we're going to talk about the rest of Advent, peace and joy and love. But then it's also this gift of the possibilities that exist beyond this lifetime. And so I think that's how Jesus changed it. And I believe firmly that our faith in Christ is tied heavily to our understanding of hope, so much so that people, and this is what I encountered last night in that group, was we struggle with identifying what is hope because we keep identifying it as faith. And they clearly are interrelated, but I do think that one feeds the other. I think faith is fed by hope, and yet faith is what helps me to have hope, right? And so they're interchangeable, but they're a little different.
Well, and I'm going to throw one more question out that I didn't prepare you for, but I'm hoping you know the answer.
No.
I'm curious, Why do we traditionally start Advent with the theme of hope? Because hope, love, peace, joy are the four traditional topics of Advent. And it feels like there would have been a solid reason to start with hope.
Yeah. Well, I think there are a couple of reasons. I'm full of multiple answers today, but so the first Sunday in Advent, going way, way back, was not only about the birth of Jesus, as all of Advent is, but the first Sunday of Advent has often or originated, if you will, as the second coming of Jesus. And so it's the hope-filled concept of both his coming, as in his birth, his first coming, but then there's this also concept that the first Sunday of Advent's about his second coming. And so both of those are encapsulated by hope, right? That not only is he born and that brings hope into the world, but we're also expectantly waiting for him somehow to come back and to return. And that's based in hope as well. So I think that's why hope starts us off. And as you point out as well, it's a great starting point, right? To talk about hope and to understand that hope is a foundational principle of our faith, I think is just a great starting point. Yeah, that's a
All
good
right.
question. I'll take it.
Well, those are all the questions that I have for today. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. You can catch all previous episodes of Go Beyond at tmumc.org/go beyond. And I hope that you will join us. I keep using the word hope. I swear I'm not using it as a pun.
It's hard not to, isn't it? I mean,
I hope that you'll join us again next week and this Sunday as we cover unstoppable
peace.
peace,
Peace.
unstoppable peace. All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Peace.